to one and all. My name is Riya Nair. I'm an ASTA volunteer and a student at BITS Pilani, Dubai. And today I'll be a moderator for ASTA Volunteers Back to School webinar series. The beginning of the school year is always filled with nervous excitement. Students eager to get back to their classes and meet their friends. Parents doing their best to ensure that their students have the great start to the new year. I'm sure we're all feeling the same emotions this year as well, with one major difference: the COVID-19 pandemic. These last few months have made us adapt to a new normal due to an unforeseen circumstance. And ASTA Volunteers has been at the forefront of this change, working to make a difference. These efforts have touched over 2 million lives in the form of food and ration kits, of PPE distributions, medical camps, etc. As our motto says, this was all powered by humanity. It was all thanks to the efforts of our volunteers. If you would like to be a part of this community, feel free to register yourself at our website, astavolunteers.com. Our efforts to empower others have also included several webinar sessions that have reached an audience of almost 500,000 people. We hope that this seminar as well, with the guidance of our experts from DHA and ASTA DM, will be able to ease some of your worries regarding the pandemic. We will also have a 15-minute Q&A session at the end of the panel where you can ask your questions through the chat box and our panelists will do their best to answer them. So without further ado, I would like to commence this webinar by requesting Ms. Deepika Thapar Singh, Principal of Credence High School, to deliver the welcome note.
Good afternoon, a very, very warm welcome. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Noseba of DHA, Dr. Nesmal Musalar, Dr. Satish Kosori, Dr. Sunil Vyas, and Mr. Jalil. A very, very warm thank you to you. This is something that, is the need of the hour. And I think this effort that you've taken to organize this webinar, we are ever, ever so grateful. Thank you, ASTA, and thank you to all the frontline warriors, all the doctors, the support staff, the nurses who have been working to keep us safe. So a very, very warm thank you on behalf of the staff, the parents, and the students of Credence High School. We have opened the school, we are back to school, and we have taken all safety protocols which have been suggested by DHA and KHDA have been followed. The school is safe in every aspect. We have the isolation rooms, we have the thermal meters, we have the hand sanitizers, and yes, everybody is wearing their masks. Today, being a Tuesday, one day we do not have face-to-face classes at school because we use this day for deep sanitization. This is one day in school where the staff has been cleaning since morning, and we'll be back again tomorrow. So without taking too much time, let's take this further, and thank you very, very much once again to the ASTA Group and to Dubai Health Authorities. You keep us safe, and for that we are grateful.
For that extremely warm welcome. I would also like to welcome all of you who are just tuning into our webinar. ASTA Volunteers, along with Credence High School and DHA, has organized this back to school session to help you all know all the precautions you can take to stay safe. For more information about our efforts, visit astavolunteers.com, where you can also register yourself as a volunteer and help us make a difference. I would now like to call upon Dr. Noseba, Senior Specialist, Public Health Promotion and Education Section at the Public Health Protection Department, to share her insights on back-to-school safety and precautions.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Nusayba Shakir Al-Bahandi from Dubai Health Authority, Public Health and Protection Department. I think this is the time our students need to come back to the school, and their coming back to school should be covered with all the safety measures. We all know that the world is experiencing a new challenge from COVID-19 last year. And in the UAE, we have taken all the necessary measures and steps to tackle the situation, and we have prioritized the community health and safety. The government has decided to reopen the schools on the condition that they adopt the strict precautionary measures and make all necessary measures to reduce the possibility of infection transmission in the school setting. This is like the work of all community, especially the school side and also the parents. Parents play a crucial role in helping us maintaining the health and safety standards. Students and parents must adopt international recommended and precautionary measures while being at school and even after school. Of course, in DHA, we designed a parent's guide, full guide about how to keep their kids healthy and how to, saving and about all the precautionary measures the parents have to apply. Before going back to school, parents should tackle their kids about, they should do conversation with them to know what is making them upset or anxious coming back to school after this COVID. They should know about, they should talk about to them about the COVID-19, the ways of transmission and how to protect themselves. They should tackle the kids. The kids should know that there will be changes, but these changes are for their benefit and the community's benefit. They should empower their role that by their obeying, the students obeying these rules, they are saving themselves, the community of the school, and even the community outside the school. As we all know, there is no treatment yet for the COVID-19, but all parents should take, they should make sure that all the kids, their kids are up to date with their vaccinations. And again, what we can do, like boosting their immunity, they should make sure that they are sleeping enough, having enough sleep, they are physically active, they are having eating healthy foods, and they should avoid stress and angriness. But again, we all know that this will help us in protection, but plus sticking to all other precautionary measures of the physical distancing, washing hands, and wearing masks. Also, parents should know that they should teach their kids even before going to school that they should not share any personal items. They should know that their kids are having certain items which are more prone to contamination, like pen, headphones, lunch boxes, their glasses, and school bags. These items should be disinfected regularly, as we all know, with a sanitizer which has minimum of 60% alcohol. Each parent should make sure that his child is aware of what is COVID-19, as I said, how he can get it, what are the symptoms. At least the child have to have a view about the symptoms, so he will refer to his parents or the school personnel if he got any symptom. And they should know about, also the parents should ensure that they should not send their kids to school if they are having any respiratory symptoms or fever. It's better for girls, or it's better to tie the hair to reduce the touching of the face. It is very crucial to wear the face mask throughout, since the child is out of home until he's back from school. Also, it's very crucial to provide each child with the parent should provide the protective kit, which includes the sanitizer and the mask. It's better to use the private transportation, but if it is not, we can use the bus. There are certain precautionary measures for safe entry to home after coming back from school, like for removing the shoes and disinfecting the items. All we will share it with all the schools. We will share the guide. before going back, I mean, the child should apply all these measures with the parents before just moving in the house after coming from school. Also, there are some measures which will be applied in the bus, the school bus. First of all, he will be measured, the temperature should be measured before entering the bus. And wearing mask is very important. Following the physical distance again at the bus is crucial, and we will teach them, try not to touch the interiors of the bus, and if you and do not touch your face as much as you can. There are tips which has to be also followed by the students at a school class. It's very important because these habits are usually there at the class where they are sharing their items, their pen, their whatever. We need to sit with them and we need to tell them that your items, it's yours. These changes are there. As we said, it's our new normal. This is the new normal. Don't use others. Don't share your things with others. Keep the distance and wear the mask all the time. Also, there are tips for communication between classmates and teachers. No handshakes, no high fives. Avoid gathering, even with friends, you should keep the distance, avoid whispering and exchanging notes between the students. They should again maintain their physical distance in all times at all sides of the, from all sides of the student. Also, we should teach our kids about the cough and sneezing etiquette. It's very important. And we should teach them about the hand washing, the proper hand washing technique. And also we should teach them how to wear the mask, how to inspect, and how to inspect for the mask before using, use the mask, how we are using it, while using it, and how to get rid safely from the mask. It's very important that we tell them, do not share masks and do not use a mask which you don't know, it's just on the desk and you use it. This is very important. We as parents and even as a school personnel, we should teach our students. So as we said, the student have to know that this is for the benefit not only of himself, not his family, even the community. The schools are many communities, but each of us, each student is coming from different community, from different family. So anything can affect the whole community. This is the responsibility of all of us. We can make our students actually responsible. We need to make them responsible that you are one part of this community and you have to help us in protecting this community. At the end, getting our students back to school is a challenge, but I think we will overcome this challenge, inshallah, this year, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. That was extremely informative. Aster DM Healthcare is constantly working to fulfill our promise of We'll Treat You Well. Aster Volunteers, being the CSR arm of the organization, also strives to live up to this promise, which is why we began this initiative in partnership with DHA and Credence High School. To know more about our activities and stay updated, follow us on all our social media pages. And if you'd like to be a part of these activities, you can also register on our website for free. Up next, we have one of our very own doctors, Dr. Nesmal Muslia, pediatrician at Aster Clinical Care, to talk about vaccinations and safety measures to be followed for children.
Am I audible now? Good afternoon, everybody. Greetings from Aster. I'm Dr. Nesmal Musliar, specialist pediatrician in Al Khail Mall. This topic, as you all know, we are bringing children back to school. I mean, the school days have started, and we'd like to open this conversation or this presentation with certain things, certain pictures around the world, because we need to know how the world is moving now, so that we can also have our inspiration to send our children to school. Just run through certain pictures that just came out in New York Times just in the first week of September, where the schools all over the world have started. So this is in Kyrgyzstan, Bishkek. That is on the September 1st. The children have started going to school there. This is in Wuhan, China, quite crowded. This is in Braun, France, the first day of school there. This is in London. Okay. And the next one is in Brussels. The next one is in, I cannot see, it's in Poland. They're all smartly dressed children at school on the first day. This is in Serbia. The first day, I think they're all playing instead of going to the class. So, the next one is in Tel Aviv, Israel. All children are happy they are going to school. And this is in Barcelona, Spain. This is in Jordan, Amman, Jordan. They are really maintaining their distances, I feel. This is in Moscow. Not many masks seen there. The teacher is wearing a mask somehow. The next picture is in Kyiv, Ukraine. None of them are wearing masks, unfortunately. That's the first day in school, but that should not be the way that we need to. So these pictures I just showed you so that we need to know that all over the world children have started going to school. We have also started, but there are some apprehensions that we have about sending our children to school. So just starting off, this is the DHA the latest definition about suspected COVID infection. I'll just run through, it's a busy slide, but I'll just go through. Any patient who has symptoms of upper or lower respiratory infection with or without fever, that's also very important. Not necessary that you should have fever to classify for the present COVID scenario. And with any following criteria, any international travel history during 14 days prior to symptom onset, has been in contact with a confirmed COVID-19 case, is residing in a community setting where there are COVID cases, which we have now, and any influenza-like illness. I think you all must be aware what is an influenza-like illness, the common cold that we call, the fever, cold, cough that usually children get. Anything that is similar to influenza-like illness should have we now suspect COVID. And a confirmed COVID case, of course, you must be knowing, all are aware now about the RT-PCR test. If that is positive, that's called a confirmed case. And a close contact also, we should know what is a close contact, basically. A person who's coming in close proximity with less than 2 meters or 6 feet, what they call, and been in contact for more than 15 minutes. It could be either working, studying, or a family member with a confirmed COVID-19 case, starting from 2 days prior to the onset of symptoms. That means it's not necessary that the person who was infected started symptoms and then, no, even before 2 days of the symptom onset, then we should call it as a close contact. I would like to go in brief about COVID in children particularly, because we have been hearing about COVID particularly in adults. And there are some slight differences that we should understand about COVID in children. As you all know, 30 to 40% of all cases are asymptomatic. They don't have any symptoms. They don't have cold, they don't have cough, they don't have fever. But studies have shown that even then they can have radiological abnormalities. If you that is only for research purposes, I mean. And out of this, 81% of those children will have only mild symptoms because they don't have any symptoms at all. They can have 14% can have severe symptoms in the form of they may need oxygen, they may have little breathlessness, high fevers, and all that. May need admission. And out of them, 5% can become critical. Critical in the sense, they have to be admitted in the ICU. They have to be started on various medications. And 2% deaths out of all these cases, And out of all the cases that have been reported in various studies, only 1 to 8%. The 8% is the maximum in amongst all the people, the positive cases in children. So it's such a low number, fortunately. And one more thing that we need to understand is that unlike our thinking, the mostly the COVID cases in children come from the household adult contacts. Unlike them going to school or from the school or from the supermarket or from the other things. A household adult contact, if he's more likely to give it to the child rather than getting it from school or from other places. And transmission of this COVID to other people from young children is uncommon, unlike in adults. So these things, we should keep in mind about the COVID in children. And of course, I just run through the symptoms of COVID-19. As usual, we all know they have fever, cough, muscle pain, headache. These are the classical symptoms which most of us know. But one thing in children that is atypical, which we need to, and in school also I would request the school teachers and other staff there, that a child who presents with diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain and rashes could also be COVID. It's not that they can have all respiratory symptoms as in the form of cough, cold and all that. Atypical presentations of COVID in children are with diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and rashes. And one complication that is reported and has been there in children is a condition called as the multi-inflammatory syndrome in children. That's a very rare complication that needs a little more better care. Very, very rare, but. Okay, and everybody may ask why COVID is not that common in, and why COVID spares more in children and why it is more common in adults. That's a very common question that we all have in our minds. We need to know why it is like that. Why children are, otherwise children, always get sick faster, but why COVID is sparing them mostly. There are so many reasons that have been noted. I'll just run through some because, the immune response to the virus, that is itself a problem in the adults who later develop in complications. So that's a less immune response. We may think that it's because of low immunity that you succumb to the disease. It's not so. The hyperimmune response that occurs later in the disease, called cytokine storm, is that which kills most of the adult patients, unfortunately. But that is not very much so in children. And when the COVID virus, when it wants to enter the body, it has to attach to certain receptors called AC inhibitors, AC receptors, which are less in children. So the virus doesn't enter into the body basically. And we know children are more healthier, they have healthier blood vessels. And one important thing is that we may say always, our children are always getting sick, cold, fever, every month the child is to the doctor, why doctor my child is getting. In fact, maybe that is one of the reasons why the children are getting protected from COVID. Because they get cross protection from the other earlier viral infections that they have caught, that they had been before. And one more very important thing that the studies are going on is that, the vaccines that we take for children, the BCGs, the MMRs, the DPTs, all these viral vaccines have had probably an impact where it's called cross protection. It's not thoroughly proven, but these are the postulates that have come why children are not getting more affected, or the infection is less common in children. And I think I'll just run through. We know that there have been a lot of recommendations how the schools should reopen basically. And this has been done based on the inclusion of experts, public health experts, educators, parents, community leaders. And, of course, you should always have a place for permit regional variations. And of course, safeguards in place should be there, hand hygiene, masks, physical distance. I think we have overheard these things now. It will be a repetition, cleaning, disinfection, ventilation, symptom screening at school and testing. And we should establish a protocol for monitoring and responding to changes in the transmission in the school community, basically. I'll just go through some, common things that we as parents do have. The CDC, that's the Center for Diseases Control, and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends face covering masks in more than 2 years. Less than 2 years, what's the problem? Children can suffocate. That's what has been reported. So at less than 2 years, you don't need to wear a mask in child. But on the contrary, WHO and UNICEF has told that it's not necessary to wear a mask in less than 5 years of child. And I think we are also following that criteria. More than 5 to 6 years, only mask is required here in UAE. Something about hand sanitizers. These are I just want to go through some common things that we have been using so that the discussion also will be little fruitful. Washing hands always is preferable. Hand sanitizer are okay, but washing hands anytime is better. And sanitizers are safe. There's no problem. Some people may be wondering if after using a sanitizer, children can lick these things. But only after full drying you can lick, and it's not a problem at all. If you if you drink that sanitizer, unfortunately for children, they can land up in alcohol poisoning. The main complication being hypoglycemia, wherein the sugars can go down. So always, the recommendation is that, less than 6 years, sanitizer use has to be supervised by an adult. And I think when we see the sanitizer, it must have been written what is the content of that. Ethanol is safe, and more than 70% is what is recommended. There have been substandard sanitizers which the authorities have been monitoring very vigilantly, and they have all gone out of the market. Isopropyl alcohol in some sanitizers had come before, but that's not very safe. And of course, methyl alcohol should not be used at all, and it should be strictly avoided. Everybody will ask, why should my child go to school? Why is there? It's a lot of risk. Why should I send the child to school? After researching so much, I have found the only advantage of a child staying at home is, it enhances parent-child relationships. The second question mark. See, the disadvantages are much, much more of a child being at home. You must all be aware, the parents who are listening to me are all aware that, they are less physically active. I'm sure the children must have gone overweight, in the past 3-4 months when they have been at home, munching in front of the visual media and all that. And physically active, that will definitely show on their weight and other things. And, they spend more time with electronic devices. Again, that's not good for a child. We all are aware that, it is just 2 hours of visual media exposure that a child is recommended per day by the British Association of Pediatrics. And, they eat poor quality diet. At home, they'll be munching. My daughter keeps on asking, Papa, I'm hungry every hour. She's at home. So that's one thing. And, the mental effects that are there, they have fear of infection where they'll be seeing all this media, they'll be having COVID. Boredom, of course. That boredom, I think any parent who's listening to this will know the child will be telling, I'm bored, I want to go out. Social isolation. Interacting with other children, other friends, playing with them, nothing can be. The online game cannot, replace a child who's physically playing with his peer. And of course, parental stress. That also, we are all talking about children, but what about the parents? The poor parents who are stressed out. I'm sure that all parents are. Of course, they are all our children. That's all right. But being at home, they irritate you. You get irritated, and you show this thing on them. Definitely, parental stress is high. And management. And one more thing, when these schools, special schools particularly, they, the special healthcare needs, especially able children, the schools do benefit a lot for them. For example, speech therapy, behavior therapy, and children who need mental health services are all affected because of, school closure. So these are things that why we should send the child to school. And I'll just go through something why, and one more thing, one aspect that we all are asking and the parents are asking is, immunization. What is the importance of immunization during these times? Routine immunizations, when I was researching, all over the world has decreased. People are just refusing to go to the clinics and hospitals to get the routine immunizations that are much, much more mandatory than, the fear of the COVID. COVID doesn't cause any problem to the child. But, missing an immunization, a routine immunization, a mandatory immunization is much more going to be a problem. In fact, the disruption of immunization, the WHO has predicted that there's going to be an outbreak of vaccine-preventable diseases, which we can easily prevent by giving the shots. And of course, now the influenza vaccine has come out actually, just 1 week back. And I think the importance of taking the influenza vaccine, which is taken yearly, you are all aware, more important, because influenza with COVID is much more dangerous than getting COVID alone. Because there are many cases that have been reported in China also, wherein there are co-infections, COVID with influenza. That is more problematic. Okay, and maybe influenza vaccine also can have a protective, a cross-protective effect also for the COVID infection, which is not proven anyways. And see, we are all coped with increased stress, and I think we can take some deep breathing, do some yoga. We can call a friend, not call in the sense, make a phone call or, discuss with them. Not call and have a party, no. And referral to health providers. And measures in school, we know physical distancing, adult to adult distancing, staggered drop-offs, discouraging parents from entering school building, physical barriers in reception, cohorting classes, utilizing outdoor spaces, avoiding activities with increased exhalation. Singing inside the class, you should go outside and sing. Temperature checks, adequate cleaning, one-way hallways, eliminate usage of lockers, isolating students who have symptoms, and physical and of course the health of the staff, mental as well as physical, because they are also under increased stress now. I think we are missing that point also. The health of the staff is also very important, in these times. And the DHA has come out with a beautiful. It looks busy. The chart is a little busy, but they have come out with recommendations how to go about screening children when they come to the school. Basically, when symptoms are detected at home, you have to isolate them at home. When symptoms are detected in the school entry, you have to call the parent and then take the child back. If the child is inside the school and develops fever, you have to isolate the child. The chart looks a little busy, but these are the basic things that have been given. And of course, the main thing is isolating the child and informing the parents, getting the test done. 14 days after isolation, with a negative result and the doctor's report, the child can come back to school. Basically, that's what is shown. This is for the staff in the school. I think these are all available in the website. We can download and go through these. I don't want to go into the details. The next one is just for people who come. And of course, I want to say something about the coronavirus vaccine, which we are all waiting eagerly. And more than 100 vaccines are there in the pipeline. Sinovac is one vaccine that they have already launched from China, and in fact, UAE was also partnered with this vaccine, and many people have taken already. The Sputnik V vaccine, which Russia came out, and Vladimir Putin has given the shot to his daughter. You must have all been aware. And that vaccine, in fact, Lancet, the journal, just 2-3 days back, it said that the antibody levels after the vaccine is showing promising results, actually. So it's a vaccine that should not be disregarded. It is a good vaccine. But of course, long-term studies have to come now. And the other vaccines that are in the pipeline, Oxford vaccine, we all know. Moderna from USA is there. Sanofi with GSK in London is coming out with a vaccine. So these are the things. I think these two happy, bubbly children are going back to school. We all hope that we can also send our children to school and, let them enjoy the school is a school, no doubt about it. Okay, then. Thank you very much. Thanks for the patient listening.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing your insights with us. In order to reach out to as many people as possible, Aster Volunteers has been organizing medical camps and mobile medical services, providing treatment to almost 300,000 people so far. Today, we have Dr. Satish Katuri, a general practitioner and a part of the Aster Volunteers Mobile Medical Services, to share with us mitigation strategies to protect yourself and others from the spread of COVID-19.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Satish Kosuri, actually. That's okay. And today I want to tell something like recent days, we had many phone calls from many people, more than 20,000 calls I have attended alone regarding this COVID-19 inquiries for children, for parents, everything. The common one which we see is likely, like as such rightly said, now we are thinking that we need more of mental treatment than a COVID-19 treatment now. People are worried a lot. Now, see, one question has come, like one call I will tell you. One person called me, sir, I have a central chest pain and my left shoulder pain is there. Do you think it's COVID-19 or any other? If it's not COVID-19, I'll be happy. See, if it's not COVID-19, maybe it's a heart attack. It's even more dangerous. You should understand that. See, each and every disease, they have particular signs and symptoms which we have to understand. Don't get worried like, if it's not COVID-19, we are not safe. COVID-19 didn't do anything. Even it changed a lot of our lives into a new normal. Suppose if I hand sanitize, if I use a hand sanitizer, it doesn't mean I'm only preventing COVID. There are many transfer diseases will be there. Hand-borne diseases, finger-borne diseases are there. Droplet-borne diseases are there. With a mask and with a sanitizer, I'm preventing all those diseases. It's not only one. We are preventing many diseases. That's why now the patient's count also has come down. If you can see, the cold and flu has come down. Recent days in winter, we used to see a lot of cases in clinics. Now the count has come down because we are wearing masks, we are using hand sanitizers. And you know, for the COVID-19 also, till now, many guidelines has changed. But the common guideline is wearing a mask, using a hand sanitizer, maintaining social distance. More than 2 meters. It's a common thing. I'm sorry. Okay. And other thing is, I'll tell you, stress, I want to tell, like, we have to maintain one routine. Now, work from home is a big issue. Now, not only we work from home are in trouble. Not only an engineer or any businessman or any appointment or any employee, whoever is in work from home is in stress. Children also in stress. Just think yourself, you know, if suppose I am a children, my children is there. I am in a meeting now and I tell him not to shout. He have to sit calm and no TV, nothing. And he should not move. And how it will be, just try to understand. That's why keep a routine at least. You know, by 5 o'clock, I have to stop working in home. I have to stop working in home. And other thing is, I have to definitely give my children time to play everything, and they share their feelings, and we have to. If you go on working till night 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, and if you maintain children not to move, not to talk, not to shout, and suppose my wife now she's put on the grinder and I'll tell, don't put on the grinder, my boss is calling me, I don't want any disturbance. See, these are all stress. We have to understand each other. It's not a usual situation. It's an unusual situation to everyone. You, me, everyone in the world. We may be saying that, see, we don't have a laptops that time in our school. We don't have pen drives in our school. We used to write in the books. That time, COVID-19, the new strain is not there. For the children, for you, for me, for teacher, for faculty, everyone it is new. So to reduce stress, some things you should understand. One thing, how many hours you are sleeping per day? Are we disturbing our employee, calling after 5 o'clock and disturbing them for work? They can work up to 8 hours. Stress is very important in our life. We have to understand that stress gives us intelligence, stress gives us accuracy, stress gives us promotions, stress gives us job, stress gives us salary. Stress is important, but up to a point only. Later on, we have to give time to our family. They are expecting father, mother to play with them. They want to share something. Listen what your son is telling, what your daughter is telling. Might be. See, I'll tell you an example. In class now, people have to maintain social distance. They'll sit in the last bench and they might be not seeing the board properly. If they tell you that, immediately don't tell, no, because of the social distancing, you are not able to see the board. Might be it's a refractive error. Just I'll tell a simple trick. One small pinhole in one cardboard or a paper, tell him to see through that hole, your children. If they can read with that hole in a far distance, might be it's a refractive error. Go check with the ophthalmologist. And the other thing is, early in the morning, I tell you, we have a schedule, even DHA is clear on it. Do exercise, 30 minutes to 1 hour, like 30 to 60 minutes. Why we are doing exercise? Many physiologists, they did a research. And they're telling now, like, no need to go for a weightlifting and all. Aerobic exercise, like long-standing exercises if you do, like going for a walk for 30 to 40 minutes, what happens? Your body cells use a lot of oxygen molecules, oxidation occurs, and your energy levels will be good, and your stress hormones will be in good circulation. And that time while you do exercise, the immune levels may come down. Later, when you take rest, the immune levels are going beyond the normal range, and you are maintaining an excellent amount of immunity, which we always struggling now. In last time I saw in a Facebook, one person is telling every day one big ginger, crush it and have it. Your immune levels will go high. And someone says, garlic can increase your immunity. It doesn't mean that we take 1 kg of garlic and 1 kg of ginger. He may lost in a gastritis. So for everything, there are some guidelines we have to follow. Not every Facebook, not every WhatsApp message is good. There won't be a doctor number or doctor name. Tomorrow you can't ask anyone. Go to a reliable website. Dr. Guru. Google doctor. So Google doctors won't have doctor's name and number. So we should think, reliable websites are there, who.int, dha.gov.ae. And we have many numbers are there. We have many numbers like 800-342 DHA number. Just call, doctors are ready to help from DHA. And you have for school information, 800-588. If you can call, they can tell you the guidelines from DHA. You can follow. Moment our children is entering into the bus, might be the assistant there, might be checking the temperature. Once the temperature is high, the rest of the students did not feel that, whatever temperature high is COVID-19. Don't show that stigma, this social stigma. Just, we have to discriminate the virus, not the humans. That stress we should not take. Just we have to support. Okay, if the temperature is high, let the parents take care and go to the clinic and let them check. And the doctor will take care. Pediatrician is ready here. Many pediatricians are doing good now. And today we got a lot of information, really, sir. A lot of new information we got. And the other thing is, I'll tell you, once they enter, and it is clear from DHA only, don't touch the interiors and don't give high fives to the children there. We have a habit. Once I enter into the bus, I'll give a high five to all the students and go. I'm a backbench person. So I'll go back and I'll sit and I'll make fun. It's not the right time now. That social distancing, don't touch interiors, and you should be very careful. And suppose if anything happened, like, suppose any fever we saw in school, no need to go everyone and see the temperature. The person who is a health in charge there have to come, take the child with proper protection, maintaining him, take him to the isolation, check the temperature, and first give assurance that nothing has happened, just wait. Either make a private traveling arrangement to the hospital or inform the parents as per the school guidelines in the safety policy we have to follow. And don't share food with each other, as our doctor from DHA rightly said. All the guidelines is still perfectly like, don't share food with each other. And suppose, see, I like bread. My friend liked toast. He brought the bread and I brought the toast. It doesn't mean that we share now. It's not the right time. So parents, you have to be alert now. Whatever your child eats, better keep that only, not for the friends, okay? And another thing I'm telling you, a simple lifestyle, and I will finish off. One thing, definitely do exercise in the morning for half an hour to 1 hour. If you're happy, many diseases you can prevent. Your blood circulation will be good. Your blood sugars can be controlled. And if you do exercise, your respiratory capacity, if I take a deep breath exercise, this increases your vital capacity of the lung. So amount of oxygen entry into the lungs will be very sufficient, very helpful to you also. And this will be less, especially to smokers. Their vital capacity will be very less. If you do exercise like deep breathing and all, definitely it will help you, because these are respiratory viruses. You have to keep your lung very healthy. And other thing is, don't eat this ginger and garlic too much. Those are very good, but in a small amount. Vitamins, the meaning of vitamin itself, we need it every day. We need it every day. So every day our food should be in a balanced way, like 15% of proteins, 20% of fat, and rest 65% or 60% with carbohydrates. And eat a fruit every day, definitely. At least 5 days in a week, we have to go for a vegetarian diet. And meat like lean meat, especially fish, eggs, chicken, these are very good for you. It gives protein. Your immunity is nothing but protein. And remember this, we should not increase immunity. We should maintain immunity in a range. Increase in immunity, as our pediatrician told, now cytokine storm is killing the adults now, or elders now. So we don't want to overstorm of immunity. We want to maintain the immunity. For that, a good protein diet is sufficient. 15% of protein in your plate is more than sufficient to give a good amount of immunity. Okay, and sleep more than 6 hours. I tell you, as per the physiologists, they tell, from night 2 to morning 8, the corticosteroid release from your kidneys will be more. Corticosteroids, the other name of corticosteroids are stress hormone. It can control stress. Suppose suddenly someone has come, tiger has come, I'll take a decision now to fight with the tiger or run away from the tiger. These ideas will be given from the kidney released hormones like catecholamines and steroids. These normally with the high levels will be in the night times, from night 2 to morning 8. So have a good sleep that time, and morning wake up, do exercise. If you expose to sun for 10 minutes, you get vitamin D. And whichever is in the peripheral skin, the fat cells, it will activate the vitamin D. And other things, see, now I'm talking now that my mask is coming down. This is not the way to wear a mask, actually. While I'm continuously speaking, it has come down, see. So I should not touch it immediately. I'll tell you 2 points in it, how to dispose the mask and how to wear a mask. Just try to follow. Might be mic won't be near to me, but I try to speak louder, okay? Yes, thank you, sir. First I have to clean my hands before I wear a mask. I'm touching the mask. And next thing is, see, I have to touch my ear strings only, not the face part. I have to touch the ear strings. I take out the mask, and there is a dustbin behind. 1 second. It's a closed dustbin. I kept there, and now I can touch the box. Okay. Before taking the mask again, see, I have to clean my hand again with sanitizer. See, whether it is soap water or sanitizer, the procedure is same. I take the sanitizer, rub, first I interplace, lock and rub, and second hand rub, see this, and rotate, lock and rotate, and roll to clean your nails, everything, and this portion is now empty. Clean it. Now my hand is clean, and it is more than 20 seconds I clean my hand. Now I can touch the box. Now my hand is safe because there are 50 pieces in the mask. If I touch with a contaminated hand, this 50 pieces will be contaminated. Now it is safe. And how I have to take the mask is, just see. Only strings I have to touch. I should not touch the mask part, this thing. And if you see, there is a metal line inside. This metal line should come up. And I didn't touch the mask part. See, now I am wearing it, touching the string, and I pinch the metal strip, touching the nose, and it take the shape of the nose. I drag it down, fine. And I should not touch again this mask part. This is the way. And while disclosing also same. First wash the hands. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. First wash the hand, then only touch. Before and after touching the mask, you have to clean your hands with a sanitizer. Even with the soap water also, it's the same. More than 20 seconds you have to do that. And see, in your school also, we see now a few areas I saw the mask, they throw it in the verandas, or they throw it in out places, and aside in the balconies, school balconies and all. It's not. We have to throw it in a closed dustbin. And suppose in a class, suppose if I sneeze a lot, sometimes more mucus will come out from the nose and my mask will be wet. I should not wear it again. Immediately clean the hands, take the mask and clean with a tissue, throw it in a closed dustbin, again wear the mask, cleaning the hand. This we have to follow. And we have only 3 weapons, again I am telling you. Social distancing 2 meters, more than 2 meters, and wash your hands. And if it is visibly dirty, wash your hands. And the other thing is wear a mask. And wear a mask should be proper. And if it is a disposable one, don't keep it in your pocket and wear again and again. It is one-time use mask. Just if it have any holes or wet, you should not use the mask. Okay, these things are very important, and hand sanitization. These things you have to do anytime, all time. These are the answers. If I touch the lift button, if I touch the handrails in an elevator, or if I touch any surfaces, any area, anything, the answer is the same. Wash your hands before touching your face. Keep your hands always clean. In school also, if the mask is torn or something, don't throw it there and from the pocket take out. You have to follow all these steps. Then only your mask is clean and it is safe for you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Insightful talk. A major part of mitigation efforts involves recognizing the symptoms in an individual on time and taking appropriate action. So, to educate us about the signs and symptoms of COVID-19, we have with us pulmonologist at Aster Hospital, Kisses, Dr. Sunil Vyas.
A very good afternoon to all of you. As rightly said by Dr. Noseba, then Dr. Nasmal, and very good demo of hand cleaning as well as disposing the mask by Dr. Satish. Most of the topics have been well covered by all of you. I would just, because I have been treating a lot of COVID patients of late for the last 4 months or so. The COVID signs and symptoms, as mentioned by Dr. Nesmal, and majority of us also know about it, has been fever. So the predominant symptom has been fever, but in pediatric age group, fever may not be the manifesting symptom because, as told before, they might be asymptomatic. Now the issue comes with a lot of, then what are the commonest symptoms which you get? As we know, COVID-19 predominantly affects the lung, and lung pneumonia is the most common and dreadful thing which we have seen, which is seen as a major cause of deaths in our elderly population. So how to look at the alarming signs? The alarming signs would be cough, which is, even if it's minimal, we need to take a serious action about it. We need to be worried about it. Second, in some cases, children might not say more of breathing difficulty, they might just say about some chest tightness. They might just feel some chest discomfort. So even that discomfort should be taken into consideration, that why this child is telling. We should not ignore it. Probably we would have ignored it in the past. So we need to take it very seriously. Then short breathing difficulty. A child who has not had any breathing difficulty issues in the past, if complains of breathing difficulty, definitely it's an alarming sign. Now, the other issue which comes up is children who already have childhood asthma, who already are suffering from this allergic rhinitis, who have recurrent cough, recurrent cold. So these children, any sort of a symptom, the parents should be alarmed, as well as the teacher should take notice of that any child who is sneezing or having little bit of cough, they need to take action on that and immediately need to alarm the parents, as well as we need to alarm the health authorities. So these are the signs and symptoms from the lung point of view. So as I said, cough, then little bit of chest discomfort and breathing difficulty. In rare cases, chest pain might also be a symptom, but in majority of the cases, we have not seen that. So these are very, very alarming signs. We need to take care of that. So on one hand, we want our children to be at school. We want them to, as everybody has rightly said, we want them to interact with other peers. We want them to do the normal routine work. We want them to have some physical activity also, because staying at home is not an answer. Children generally don't like to go outside. So one of the friends of mine was asking me whether we need to start them on empirical vitamin D supplements, because they're not going at all in the sun. So at least going to the school will allow them to have some activity, some interaction, so that at least they'll be out of the house. So that is very, very important. Along with that, we need to keep in mind these signs and symptoms, and any symptom related to that, we need to take urgent action. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, Dr. Vyas. If you'd like to revisit any of the insights or advice that our experts have shared with us today, we will be uploading this webinar on all our social media pages. So don't forget to follow us there. And if you'd like to be a part of this initiative, you can register on astervolunteers.com with just a few clicks. We will now be having a Q&A session with our panelists. So if you have any queries, please feel free to send them through the chat. Our first question comes from Ms. Samaira Arora. Once you get COVID, can you get it again? I think this would be a question for our pulmonologist, Dr. Vyas.
From the world, there have been cases from South Korea, as well as a recent case from India. For a hospital in Bangalore, they have said that they have got a case of reinfection of COVID. So at this moment of time, as I've been saying, this is a new virus which we have been also discovering for the last 4, 5, 6 months at the most. So at this moment of time, but looking at other viruses like the swine flu and other, we found out that they become a seasonal flu, and over a period of time they might lead to reinfection. But in a particular year, having again reinfection with COVID will not have that severe symptoms as when you have the first infection from COVID. So probably yes, we might have, but it's going to be very, very rare.
Actually, I would like to add something about this. All the reinfections that have been reported all over the world, they have done studies and they have found out that actually it's not actually reinfection. It is the virus that persists there in the first infection that was there. In fact, you know, the PCR, repeat PCR has now been questioned. In fact, some initially during the initial COVID days, we had to have negative PCRs. Only the patient used to be discharged. That used to take 40 days, 45 days in many parts. But now, so the thinking is that the person who has had a COVID initially has the virus inside, but these are non-viable viruses. And the studies that have done in, I think doctor was mentioning in Hong Kong or South Korea, they have done, it was not an infective. These are non-viable viruses, because when you do the PCR, you are just getting some genetic material of the virus that is there. It is not reinfection actually. So that is actually questionable. It's not actually reinfection. It is the virus, the infection that was there earlier. That is the current thinking about it. That's what I've gone through the literature and I've found out.
Thank you so much for the answers. Our next question comes from Ms. Anu Thomas. People put the mask on the chin while eating food or drinking water. So would you suggest that the mask be replaced in such a case?
Yeah, replaced is correct actually. No, we should not do that. Dragging down to the chin. See, now this part is exposed completely to different types of virus. Not only COVID-19, any bacteria, any virus, or any organism, maybe a microorganism may be here. If I drag the mask down, I am locking inside now. I am forcefully entering all the bacteria inside and again taking back. So forcefully taking the bacteria and virus inside to get more infection. Not only COVID, any other infection also may occur. So while eating, take out the mask. But in one guidelines, they told you can take out the mask and keep the outside area top and the inners down on the table. Or preferably over a tissue paper and all. If we don't have any mask there, like if we have only one, we have to reuse it under any do or die types. That time better, keep a tissue and the inner part should be in the inner side and the hood should be on the outside. Then
the message that should be given is, I think you have to replace the mask.
Replace the mask.
That is, and yes. Masks are not expensive at all. I mean,
but sometimes only one mask is there in the situation. That time they have other chance, or else replace is the correct answer.
People would also like to know, between the masks that are available, would it be more safer to use a cloth mask or a disposable mask?
See, cloth mask, actually, once we use it, suppose if I'm wearing a cloth mask now, I sneeze, I have to take it and keep it in a closed cover. Later on, we wash it, and after 3 days, better we use it. Not immediately the next day. And the disposable one is okay. Just use it one time and after 4 or 5 hours when we are back home, take out the mask and throw it out, it's fine. Coming to the cloth mask, just don't use it immediately the next day. It is saying that mostly after 3 days. If I have 10 masks, 3 today, and these 3 will be repeated after 3 days. Less like for N95 also we use the same. And no need of, just keep it, soak it in 10 hours, 5 to 10 hours in hot water, then use your normal detergent to wash it, no problem.
I would like to add that I think cloth masks are not the best. If you have a surgical mask, definitely go for that. No doubt about it. And these thin cloth masks, there have been studies that have shown that it's not protective. You should have a 2-layered cloth mask at least. I mean, one.
So our next question is regarding type 1 diabetic kids. So are type 1 diabetic kids more prone to get infected with COVID?
Okay, that's a very good question. Type 1 diabetes, amongst the disease burden that has been there in children all over the world, I need to tell you that the disease is more symptomatic in those children who are a little more immunocompromised. In that, diabetes is one factor. Because those children, they are likely to have more complications or they can become symptomatic because of COVID. It's not that they land up in all complications, but they are likely to be, in the sense, more prone and they are likely to be more symptomatic than the other children who are not diabetic. The other question was what?
That was the question about type 1 diabetes.
Okay, so type 1 diabetes, definitely they come into the category wherein they are a little more immunocompromised than the normal population. No doubt about it.
So we also have people from our audience wondering regarding the COVID tests that take place. So the accuracy of the results, is it possible to get false negative or false positive results as well? And if there's an explanation regarding that.
I think Dr. Sunil had to tell.
Regarding the COVID test, RT-PCR testing is the gold standard for COVID-19 infection, and the positivity rates are around 60 to 70%. Now, looking at a pandemic, I would not say that any patient who has detected as in first instance as positive by RT-PCR cannot be considered as false positive. In a pandemic, any positive case, I would take it as a positive. Now, considering the false negative, yes, that there are, as I said, the sensitivity positivity rates are 60 to 70%. So even if your RT-PCR is negative and you have symptoms with radiological abnormalities, still you can be having COVID-19 infection.
Thank you so much for the answer.
I think when you do RT-PCR maybe later in the illness, after 7 days or something, it can be negative. Then you have the option, then how do you diagnose it? Maybe then you can do
Serology.
That's the way you can go about.
Thank you so much, sir. So our next question is regarding the abaya. So Ms. Kurat asks, when we are wearing an abaya, we have the hijab also along with it. So can we cover the face with the hijab itself, or do you also need to wear a mask along with it? The hijab. So can you just cover the face with the hijab, or do you also need to wear a mask?
I'm not sure, but if you wear a hijab, like if you can cover your nose, mouth and all, it's fine. Because if you wear a mask and hijab, if any sign of suffocation, better don't wear.
But I think hijab will be quite loose. I don't think it will be a tight fitting. The basic idea of the mask is that, it has to not to allow or minimal air to be in. But hijab, I think it's quite loose. So I think that will not serve the purpose alone. I think a mask will be required. Dr. Sunil can throw some light on that.
Yeah, so you cannot substitute a mask with any other thing. You cannot use just leaving aside that even people ask whether handkerchief, if they don't have a mask, it cannot be a substitute of a mask. They may have a little bit of effect, but mask is always considered the gold standard.
Again, as Dr. Najmal just said, that masks need to be tight. So in case of children, sometimes because the mask is so tight, it can become suffocating for children. So the audience was wondering, do the children have to wear the mask for the entire day, because it can get uncomfortable for them?
Forget about children, even we cannot wear the mask for the entire day. I mean, I need to at least, remove my mask maybe once in an hour at least, and, I have to take a deep breath. It's not possible for a child, definitely not to, and that's the reason why UNICEF and WHO has told a child who is not less than 5 years should not wear a mask. And of course, less than 2 years, you should not, you are not supposed to wear at all. The child should take it out in between, no doubt about it. Even for adults, it is applicable, I think. Of course, you take out your mask only when you are alone, when other people are not around. That's the answer for that.
Thank you so much for the answer. Our next question comes from Arushi. In case we come through any symptom of COVID-19, do we immediately take a COVID test, or do we wait for a few days, because the symptoms of COVID are quite similar to a common cough and cold as well? So do we wait, or do we immediately get a test done?
I think the COVID test is best positive. The RT-PCR is positive when you do it on the first day of your symptoms. Or it's the exact time is 0.7 days of your starting of your illness, and within 3 to 4 days of your symptoms, maximum of 1 week. That is the best time that you get the positive result. That's as far as I know. And Dr. Sunil, any opinion about that?
I would also suggest that anybody who has symptoms, he should get tested. Any symptoms at this moment of time, as soon as possible. So no need to wait for 1 or 2 days and trying other treatment. No, we should get tested immediately.
Thank you for that answer. Since this is a webinar for going back to school, we have a lot of students who are obviously excited to get back, meet their friends, and also play outside, go outdoors. So there were students wondering if it's safe to go and play sports in the current situation, and if there's any measures that can be taken to prevent the spread.
I think the measures, activities also is the same. You have to maintain a gap of 6 feet, and close contact, of course, should be avoided, no doubt about it, because these are the ways that the infection spreads. But in the open air, it's less likely than you are in a closed space. But you have to maintain all those things. But I think close contact sports, as of now, I think is not very advisable, no doubt about it.
Thank you for that answer. So our next question comes from Ms. Amrita, who wants to know, can we not wear gloves when we go outside, and instead can we just have good hand washing practices? Would that be safe after coming back?
A good hand hygiene and all, it's fine. Even if you wear a glove, if I touch some infected area, if I touch my face, virus will go in. So if you have a mask or if you don't have, keep your hands clean and don't touch your face unnecessarily and repeatedly. If your hand is clean, if you have to touch, then only, or else always keep your hands clean with glove or without glove. Okay.
We have also had a few questions regarding people who might get infected with COVID-19. So is there any specific measures to take in terms of diet, like eating and drinking? Or if someone from your house gets sick, what do you do in that case?
In home, if you feel like, if any COVID-19 symptoms and all, mostly what we suggest is maintain room temperature. Don't take any foods from refrigerator. Lukewarm water is always good. And if you feel any sore throat, such as salt water gargling, some steam inhalation you can do. And you can, if you have any symptoms, you are afraid of going out, first try to consult a doctor on phone. And other than that, if I am healthy, I want to maintain my levels good, balanced diet is always good. And if I am in stress, I am not moving, better I reduce spicy, oily foods in my diet and drink at least more than 3 liters of water per day. Do some exercise and maintain 1 cup of vegetable salad or fruit salad in my diet, and morning breakfast and in between 1 fruit for sure. And lunch should be your plate should be of 60 to 65% carbohydrate, as I told, 15% protein and 20% fat. And just night times before sleep, not have heavy diets and all. It's fine.
We have time for only a couple of questions more. So in case one of our parents gets infected with COVID and say the other parent does not know how to drive. So commutation would be a problem in such a case, especially since public transport is not recommended. So what can we do in a situation such as that?
See, there are some kits we have to maintain in our home. First thing is the thermometer, and second one is the pulse oximeter. These things are very important, and our family medicine doctor's phone number and the local authority, health authority's phone number. These are very important. As I told you, 800-342. Our ambulance number is 998. Very fastest ambulance we have in UAE. It will come very fast. And pulse oximeter, if the saturation is going below 90 or it is drastically coming down, your oxygen saturation, immediately you have to call the ambulance. If you can't drive, ambulance help you can take. And temperature is, if it is above 37 or 37.5 and it's not coming down with your doctor's regular medication and all, then you have to definitely consult the ambulance or your family doctor on phone. Definitely they'll guide you what to do.
Have any of these symptoms, influenza-like illness? I think at this scenario, I think COVID testing is very important. What Dr. Sunil Vyas, any comments?
Definitely, any symptom which is similar to what COVID, as we mentioned, like fever, common cold, cough. Definitely, we should go ahead and get a COVID test done. Now, coming to what Dr. Satish said, if somebody does not have, the other person does not know how to drive, definitely we need to call the ambulance. We need to, because they will come and check, and probably if it's warranted, they might shift him to a hospital for better care.
Thank you for that answer. Due to shortage of time, that's all the time we have for questions right now. If any of your questions went unanswered, our panelists will do their best to email the answers to you. So this brings us to the end of the session. We hope this webinar was valuable in helping you understand the safety guidelines when getting back to school. I would now like to ask Mr. Jalil, Head of CSR at Aster DM Healthcare, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to all. I want to just thank each one of you for listening this wonderful 1 hour session, which was filled with a lot of information, and especially to Ms. Priya Nair, the wonderful moderator, who is a student by profession. She is a final BE student in biotechnology. She herself has came forward and to volunteer this session, and she has done it in a wonderful way to conclude in the stipulated time. So thank you, Ms. Ria, for a wonderful moderator of the session. Then we have from the Health Authority, from the DHA, Dr. Nusaiba Shakar Al-Bahanti, who is from the Public Health Protection Department, our chief guest, who has given lights to the precautions and the statutory guidelines to be followed. And very thankful to her, ma'am, and Dr. Hind Ahmed Al-Awadi, who facilitate the sessions. And we can be proud that this is the first of its kind happening in UAE, and it's a leadership provided by the DHA. And I'm very thankful to Mrs. Deepika Thapar Singh, the principal of the school, who has come forward and to host this program facilitated by ASTA volunteers. This has really given a good insight to and confidence to all our students, parents, teachers, and the entire community. And we are very happy to hear that you started the school and with all the safety precautionary measures, and the kids started enjoying the school. And the all session, I'm sure that is going to increase the boosting the confidence among our parents and the community around. So thank you, ma'am. And along with the ma'am, we had the vice principal, Mr. Shivender, and the administrator, Mr. Shaheen. Thank you, Mr. Shaheen, for facilitating and initiating the session. And then principal for the vice principal, Mr. Shivender, spending all the time with us. I'm very thankful to Dr. Nesmal Musliar, a wonderful session, given a lot of insights, taken us to all around the world, showing that what is happening around the world, and also giving a lot of informations or, like avoiding our doubts about various aspects, giving a lot of confidence and saying that, yes, people like you are around as and when there is some issues, this gives us a lot of confidence to all of us. Thank you, Dr. Satish Kosuri, your wonderful experience in community matters, and then the excellent expertise in helping the people in a pandemic as a pure volunteer has given a lot of insights to all of us. Thank you for that. Dr. Sunil Vyas, we are very thankful to you, and wonderful confidence you have passed on to all of us, and your hands-on experience in treating large number of positive patients and then bringing back them to a normal life. This gives us a lot of confidence to move in a community and a country like Dubai. I want to just place in records the wonderful works done by the Dubai Health Authority, with all the challenges, with the vibrancy, with all the hub as a traffic hub. They have done such a small country, and a new country has done a wonderful job in combating these diseases. And we are proud, and we are always will be with the DHA in taking these measures forward. So also I want to thank the people who worked behind the scenes, the lot of ASTA volunteers team who put this in order, the communication team from ASTA volunteers and the technical team from ASTA volunteers. I once again thank each one of you for making a wonderful informative webinar, which is need of the hour. On behalf of ASTA volunteers, thank you once again, and thanks a lot. All the best. Take care. Let's have a new norm and a new life with a lot of confidence and a lot of cheers around, and have a wonderful time. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir. I would once again like to thank ASTA volunteers for organizing this initiative, and thank you all for listening in so patiently. That's all we have for today. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Children, we may leave the meeting, please. Children, we may leave the meeting, please. Thank you.